Hi everybody. Today I'm going to show you how to use the time of day service with the Quantum system. To get started, you will need to download your service in your QServer library. So go to the library tab, go to services, and then go to the time of day service and then click download. Once it's installed, go over to your services tab, and then you'll see the time of day service in the list. Go to the actions for it and then click start. Now for this configuration, you'll have to input the latitude and longitude of your current position, which you can find by doing a simple internet search. Once you have input your latitude and longitude, go ahead and click next. Now that your configuration is set up, click activate. But before we do anything else, we'll have to set our time zone. So go to the settings on your QServer, go to general settings, scroll down, and then select the correct time zone for your location. Once you do that, your time of day service is set up, and then you can create an app using the associated objects. So let's go ahead and do that. Go back to your home page, go to the apps tab, and then click create new. And I'm going to name this app time of day, and then click create. Now to use the associated objects, go to the services drop-down menu. And then under timing, you'll see sunrise, sunset, and time of day. First, let's go ahead and take a look at sunrise and sunset. So these objects are pretty straightforward. They're used to trigger another object within set minutes of sunrise and sunset of your current location. To use these objects in an app, first you will need to bring out something to trigger these services, since they will not automatically run when you run the app. One of the trigger objects you can use is the initial trigger. This will trigger these services right away once you run your app. If you don't want your services to run right away once the application is running, what you can do is put in another type of trigger object. This can include a manual form such as an interface button or some type of other digital hardware or interface configuration. However, once you set up your trigger, you'll need to configure when you want your objects to trigger before or after sunrise. Now for these values, you set them in minutes. So if you want something to trigger 10 minutes before sunrise of your current location, you go to the before sunrise port and under value, type in 10 and then click save properties. If you want it to trigger, say 20 minutes after sunrise, go to the after sunrise port and then for value, click 20 and then click save properties. And these steps are also the same for the sunset object. Once you have that set up and your app is running, these services are running, you will have your objects triggered during those set times for your set location. Now let's go ahead and look at our time of day service object. So now I'm just going to drag out that time of day object. You'll see this one's a little bit different than the other two. You'll notice that each day of the week it has their own port on the object. Now the reason for this is because we want to set some days of the week to true, so it will trigger during those days but not other days. So to use this object, first, let's go ahead and pick a day of the week we want it to trigger. You can have multiple days of the week too. Since today's Tuesday, I'm going to click the Tuesday port, and under value, you can either type in true or just press 1, and then it'll automatically fill in as true, and then click save properties. Once you have selected the days of the week that you want to be true, we're going to have to set the time of those days for it to trigger an object. So to do that, we're going to go down to this time port. You can either type in the time into the value. Just remember that it uses a 12-hour clock, so you'll have to type in AM or PM with the time. So say I want it to trigger at 10 a.m. on Tuesday. I'll have to type in 10 a.m. just like that. But say I want 10 p.m., just go ahead and put in PM and then click Save Properties. However, there's another way to do this. What you can do is bring out a time picker interface object and go ahead and drag that out to the time port on the time of day service object. Now this can be used if you're trying to change the time a little bit more periodically, or you want it to access it easier by going through a dashboard instead of stopping the app, changing the time in the value port here, and then starting the app again, and it will pause your entire application. So the time picker is a little bit more convenient, but I'm going to delete that other previous value there. And we have our time picker. And then now, since once we start the app, this object won't start until it's triggered here, I don't recommend using the initial trigger unless you're just typing in that value into this port, because if you do the initial trigger and it's scheduled, and then you do change the time it will pause the scheduling and then it won't start again. So you do have to trigger it again in order to keep this program going. So to do this, I recommend using a button interface object. And I'm just going to drag that to our trigger. Now I like using the button interface object because if I do decide to change the time using the time picker, the service will pause and then I have to re-trigger it, so I can just press the button on our dashboard and then it'll start the service again. So now that you have a better idea on how to set up the time of day service object, let's go ahead and create a quick demo with this. So I'm going to drag out a debug interface object, and this way we can read the value that this object sends us in our dashboard here. And let's go ahead and just label these interface objects a little bit better. Do that. Dashboard time picker, debug, we'll just keep as debug. And then now go ahead and click Save App. I'm going to return to My Apps and click the play button. We don't have any hardware objects, so we don't have to do any mapping. I'm going to click Save and Run. And then now I'm going to our dashboard, go to the time of day demo. Now we have our time picker, our trigger button, and then our debug object. Now I'm also going to bring in my live clock from my computer here. As you can see, it's 4:03 p.m. and 7 seconds. And now I'm going to set the time picker so it will trigger the debug object at 4:04 p.m. on the dot. So let's go ahead and go back to our dashboard here. I'm going to go to our time picker. I'm going to click 4:04 p.m., click Done. I'm going to trigger that service object to start. And then I'm going to bring the clock back here. And now you see it's 4:03, 45 seconds. Let's give it a few more seconds here. And then at 4:04, we'll trigger the debug. And there you go. Right at 4:04 p.m., our debug object got triggered and sends us a value from that time of day service object. So this is just a quick, simple demo to show you how that time of day service object works. There's a bunch of different applications you can use it for. So far, we have used it to trigger motorized shades to go up and down based on the time of day. And we also chose it to only go up and down at certain times during the weekdays versus the weekends. You can also use this to arm a security system that you have built with the Quantum system based on the time of day it is as well. And the possibilities are pretty much endless. I'm curious what you all will be using this object for. If you build something cool with it, please share it with us. We like to see what you guys are building. Make sure you check out those links in the video description below for more information about the service. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.